Hello, hello, hello. This is Kenny Perkins, aka your cancer guy. And here we are again with another episode and another phenomenal guest. Yes, we are traveling right here in California, Los Angeles, California, to be exact. So, my goodness, have you ever thought about the power of nutrition? You know, a lot of times we hear sayings and we don't know where they come from, right? You are what you eat. Let thy food be thy medicine. But how does that play a role when it comes to a cancer patient, right? How does that play a role if you're a family member or a loved one, and how you can prepare foods for your loved one? If you're a caregiver and you're in that position, how do you go about knowing what to shop for, what's the best for that individual, right? And then as you're going through chemotherapy or radiation or you're getting ready for surgery, is there certain foods that can help you, right? Is there anything that's involving gut health that is a factor when it comes to being diagnosed with cancer and moving forward as you're going through this cancer journey? Well, today we're going to be getting into that, and we're going to talk to someone who is a specialist, a nutritional specialist when it comes to oncology. And please help me to bring in Tamar Rothenberg. Tamar, welcome to All Talk Oncology.
Thanks, Kenny. I feel like I'm in the right place.
Yes, you are in the right place. You know, this is what we do here, Tamar. We talk about it all talk oncology. We want to make sure we cover all bases. And, you know, sometimes I feel that the nutritional aspect of it kind of gets overlooked. And so I'm so glad that you've taken on to come to be our guest today. And it's a privilege. And so let's get started. Tell us a little bit about your background. Who is Tamar? How did you end up in this place where we're at today?
So, of course, there are things you can control in life and things you can't. So, I was not a dietitian when I was diagnosed. I had stage 3 breast cancer, hormone positive. No one in the family had had it. It was a complete shock, but it turns out, and this is why it's important to get tested, genetic testing, that my mother had melanoma, my grandmother had pancreatic cancer, and they both passed away from it. And that is the hallmark of the BRCA2 gene. So it can come out in different forms in different families. So, and then while I was going through treatment, which everyone knows is rough, a bunch of surgeries, chemo, all that, when I ended up in kind of the survivorship mode, I was referred to a dietitian, an oncology dietitian, and I thought, this is amazing. How come people don't know about this? And I had such a good experience, and I just thought nutrition can really, really support you during your different, times during and before, during, and after your cancer experience. So this oncology dietitian really mentored me, helped me, learn about the different programs. And I did go back to school, got my master's in nutritional science, and then the registered dietitian degree, which is something I really wanted, because then you're able to work clinically with patients. And that was very important to me. So that's where I ended up. And I started, opened my private practice and started seeing clients. And, we always think about only the people who have been diagnosed, which is very important. But in breast cancer, there's people at very high risk who know that now that they have a genetic risk, whether it's BRCA1, 2, or many other genetic mutations we've found out about since. And that's also an important time to focus on your nutrition and lifestyle changes. And really to support yourself, not necessarily prevent. We don't have anything that really prevents cancer, but we can reduce the risk of breast cancer for sure by certain things, lifestyle changes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I tell you what, that whatever information you received, it definitely motivated you. I mean, look at what happened. You went back to school to become, a dietitian and getting your RD certification. That's huge. So tell us What was your thought process about food prior to moving forward, prior to getting this understanding of how important nutrition is in all aspects, but and most importantly with cancer?
Right. So I find a lot of this now in my clients. There's a lot of blame, self blame. I must have done something wrong. I have clients tell me, "Oh, I had soda every day. That's probably what did it," or "I didn't eat enough fruits and vegetables." All these things are part of lifestyle changes, but that's not the cause of your breast cancer. We still don't know the cause of specifically breast cancer. It could be a combination of many, many things. So it's never about self blame. It's just moving forward, starting where you are, empowering yourself, not passing judgment on what you're eating. And it is very important at all, throughout your cancer journey, what will help you. And some people, like clients, they're going through chemo, for example, and they're told just eat whatever you can eat. They're very upset about it, right? Like, no, I want to support my body during cancer. But maybe that is the best thing for you at this time, even though it doesn't seem like it's very healthy. For example, if you're losing weight, if you're not, or if you're losing muscle, then there are some important foods you'll need to include, which maybe you thought weren't as healthy, like white rice. If your stomach is upset, that is the best thing you're going to eat. And a lot of people don't feel that that's a good thing to eat, but I say, white rice will really support you now, and it's fortified. It's like a multivitamin, so go for it.
Tamar, such a great point that you brought up, right? Because blaming ourselves, we realize deep down that nutrition, certain things are not good to eat, right? We talk about fast food or things like that, processed foods. We understand when it's time to go on a quote unquote diet, then we know that there's certain foods that we probably should stay away from. So how can you not think about, wow, the things I put in my body maybe may have affected me, right? Because now you're looking for answers and you're looking for some type of direction. What is it about nutrition that you can explain to us that can help, right? I mean, we're not going to say, well, you have cancer and continue eating this certain type of foods, are we?
Right. So that's really a good observation to think about it that way. So there's two things I like to focus on. One is what are the foods that support breast health or after breast cancer, reducing your risk? And that's going to be very specific for breast cancer. And then there are the foods that will support you as you age so you don't develop chronic conditions. And some of them do overlap. But we do have to think about both those goalposts, right? What's going to reduce my risk of breast cancer? What's also going to support me as I age? Because there are certain things that we're more at risk for, like heart health, cognition that may be more affected after you've had medical treatments. Bone health is directly affected by aromatase inhibitors. That's the hormonal therapy. So we do have to focus more on these foods than maybe someone who hadn't been through these medical treatments or had cancer. So these are very important things to support us so we age well, despite a cancer diagnosis. And or if we have advanced cancer, then there are certain ways that we can maybe keep fatigue at bay and other things that can support us so that we have a better quality of life.
Mhm. So walk us through, you know, walk us through your experience. I mean, that I think that's the unique thing, right? You had your own experience prior to being diagnosed. What was life like for Tamar?
Well, you're going to live forever, right? And then the cancer diagnosis hits, and the first thing you're terrified. Am I going to die? I have a young child. I have a husband. I have a career. I have friends. Your life is in upheaval. There's no other way to look around. And of course, you notice who your real friends are, because the ones who are scared will drop away. That's a very common occurrence. So, now I think it's also very different as a healthcare provider. I hear this from many doctors who themselves were diagnosed with cancer, that once they became a patient, they were a totally different healthcare provider. Like they had a different perspective. And it doesn't mean if you didn't have cancer, you can't treat somebody, but it did bring another dimension to their care. And that's what I feel like it brought me. Like I can recognize when somebody's going through something. Oh yeah, I know what that feels like. I don't know what it feels like for you, but I remember what it felt like for me. So that I think that's really important for me, that I can relate more to, I don't dismiss side effects. I take them very seriously, because if, for example, if you're not sleeping well, you're not going to eat well the next day, and then you're going to feel even worse. So we know these things are affecting every aspect of your life, emotionally, physically, so many ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I mean, me myself, I've kind of find myself being the jack of all trades, right? And I've 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 been in the fitness industry now for quite some time, and what I've learned through nutrition is that it transforms your body. If
Mm.
you eat certain type of foods daily and you do a certain type of exercise, a certain type of regimen, then your body's going to respond in a certain way. And so for me, understanding how powerful food is, and from the transformation standpoint, you apply that to what a cancer patient may be going through, and then the power of nutrition. So that's why I was asking, your diet prior to, right? Because it wasn't until your diagnosis that you really started to understand nutrition, from a huge point of view. What was life like from a nutritional standpoint for you prior to that?
I don't think I took it as seriously, but I always liked, food that made my body feel good. So that was just part of my natural way of eating. And I grew up eating a lot. I grew up on a farm, so we ate lots of fruits and vegetables already. So that was something I enjoyed. But then, yes, I did take it more seriously when I was diagnosed, and I wanted more specifics. Like I wanted more structure around what to eat, how to eat. And now I also recognize that it's also important to enjoy your food, not just focus on, is this going to be bad for me? So I tend to, really tell my clients, let's see what you can add in instead of what you need to take out, because it's just a better approach. It's more calming. It reduces your food fears. And let's see where we can add in things that'll give you more energy, that'll make you feel better in the morning, that'll make you sleep better. We know nutrition is really important even for mental health now. There's so many good studies that show specific foods help with mood, and with, especially after a cancer diagnosis, there's huge anxieties around that. So, and sleep is a big one that's disrupted by even hormonal therapies after breast cancer. And we know there are certain strategies that do work to help your sleep, even through hot flashes. So, and do you want to hear one example of that will support clients through that?
Was that a question? I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, it was the question.
Yeah,
I put you on
absolutely.
the spot. Okay.
Absolutely. All my listeners would not be happy if I didn't ask for an example, for sure.
So a lot of, I'm sure this has been heard a lot, but a lot of my clients are afraid of eating soy. That is like the bad food that nobody with hormonal cancer should be eating. Well, it's the complete opposite, we know now. It was based on really bad research in mice, where they gave them, huge amounts of soy that you as a human could never eat. And they saw some tumor growth, but it doesn't translate to humans at all. and for many reasons. And they found that actually is protective. And if you're taking a drug like tamoxifen, to block estrogen, it actually works along the same pathway as tamoxifen and helps tamoxifen work better. So we do see that, for example, among Asian women, they barely have hot flashes. And the studies have shown that it's probably because they eat way more soy than we do. And not having as many hot flashes, even with, it is a little different because you're forced into menopause after breast cancer in most cases. But if your hot flashes are reduced, you will sleep better because that's what a lot of people are waking up from. So adding soy now, we see even reduces recurrence. That was huge. That evidence just came out this year that, we're dietitians, we were told really push the soy because it reduces recurrence. And it's still a hard thing because people are so used to hearing they shouldn't be eating it. So that's one of the things I really work on is reducing those kinds of fears.
Well, it's extremely important, right? I mean, because one, a lot of times people are not thinking about cancer or educating themselves unless something happens, right? And it should be something as I say a common cold, right? We understand what's needed for that. Educate. We've been educated about that. So why not educate ourselves about what's happening, how we can prevent that nutrition, the things that are within our control, and nutrition is one of them. And so let me ask you this question: you being going through some of the chemos and being diagnosed, as you know, Tamar, food doesn't taste the same when you're going through certain type of chemotherapies or treatments. Have you found a way that or a concoction or a recipe that people can palate a little bit better, as they're going through these types of treatments?
Yeah, that's something oncology dietitians are really skilled in helping you through that. And it's very hard for me to see people who aren't going through, who aren't referred to a dietitian and they're just suffering, really suffering when they don't need to. If they had specific guidance, it would really help them. And also complete treatment, because we know that you'll do better, of course, if you complete treatment. So a lot of the symptoms that we think about with chemo, like throwing up all the time, that should not be happening anymore. I mean, we have better, drugs also to counter nausea, but there are nutritional solutions. So I work with what your side effects are. Do you have taste changes? Do you have a metallic taste? That's very common. Do things taste too sweet or you can't take spice? So we work with your specific side effect. Is your appetite lower? Do you get full very fast? These are things that we have solutions for, and you shouldn't be suffering through them. So, these are very important solutions, and they're not that hard. And it's really difficult for me to see that people aren't getting that advice when
Yeah.
they need it most.
Well, drop us a gem. What is something that can help with the taste? Give us an example.
So like a common thing is actually things taste too sweet. And we can fix that with adding a bit of citrus or lemon juice to your foods, and maybe avoiding meat for people who have a metallic taste, or avoiding actually a key one is not using silverware if you have that metallic taste, because it does make it worse. So you can use chopsticks, for example, and a lot of times that's the solution. These are very simple things that people should know about, and um, they're not getting that access to the information. And a lot of the information out there, of course, as you know, about nutrition is, it worked for me, it's got to work for you. It doesn't work like that with nutrition. It's very personalized, it's very individual. And when you're diagnosed, you immediately go to the web and start looking up stuff. I look at this all the time, and most of it is wrong. I would say like 80% is completely wrong. And that's the way it is. So we really have to look to health professionals for that advice, and the right health professional, right?
100%. 100%. And I always say that, right? You get advice, but always consult with your healthcare provider. And it's extremely important. And, certain areas, like you said, we were talking, me and Tamar were talking a little bit earlier, and we talked about a lot of times people are very specific about what they're doing in their job, healthcare professionals. Me, you think about it, a radiation therapist, I'm very specific about what I'm doing. You're coming in for treatment, and that's what I'm doing for you. But outside of that, a lot of times you find that the healthcare professional doesn't really understand other aspects. And so this is why it's important to have these types of conversations, like we're having right now with Tamar, so that we can educate ourselves and we can find ourselves not in a place where we're miserable, but the way that we're tolerating it, but in a good place, right? Because the cancer journey, uh, I've seen it. I've seen what people go through on that, and it can be very difficult if you don't have the right guidance in that. So I'm hoping that you're getting a lot of the gems that Tamar's talking to you about, nutrition being a very powerful tool that you can utilize and that you have control over. And so, Tamar, getting into, here you were, you've been diagnosed, you go through treatments, you're understanding now, you get this education. What is your outlook now as when you speak to individuals about nutrition and knowing what you've gone through?
Yeah, you know what? What I learned the most was that we have to relax about food. Our body is very strong. It can handle a lot of things. Look at you, if you've gone through chemo and radiation and surgeries and you're here, you're still functioning, maybe not as well as you'd like, but your body can take it. And so we have to go through different seasons in the cancer experience. There's, during chemo and then after or during radiation surgery, and there are things that support you there. And then in survivorship, it's going to look very different than when you were undergoing active treatment. So once you're in survivorship, then we can focus more on the foods that support you so you avoid chronic conditions or, things like that. And so we have to understand that it is very personalized. Now we're seeing, even with the medications, that nutrition is becoming very personalized. With immunotherapy, now we know that a high fiber diet, for example, with melanoma, these patients did a lot better on a high fiber diet. I mean, that's astounding. We're seeing direct results with gut health and nutrition. And I want to emphasize that even with, nutrition and cancer, that even if you do like 2/3 or 1/3 of what you're supposed to do, you're still deriving benefit. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to, go crazy eating in a certain way because of food fears. Your body will adjust. And of course, anything you give it will help it, but it can also handle the occasional desserts and the social, and the holidays and your favorite cultural foods. We can't forget about them. They're very comforting. They offer us a lot of emotional nutrition. So it's very important that we don't think, just in the box, let's expand it a little and say, okay, most of my diet is good. That's great. That's a great change for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that you brought that out, right? Starting out incrementally, right? You want to continuously add good things into your diet. And a lot of times we try to make these changes so quickly. Like we drop everything that we were doing and we try to go healthy in one specific way. And that only lasts a specific amount of time, right? It only lasts for before you crash. And so adding something slowly as you go through the process will allow you to maintain that type of lifestyle. Would you not agree with that, Tamar?
Oh, absolutely. That's the only way I work as well. I've had clients that decided to go vegan which actually that's one of my specialties. I have a certificate of training in vegan nutrition and vegetarian, but it may not be right for you at that pace. And those are the people who might drop it. You have to have a much more balanced diet and think about, adding on certain supplements, which doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the vegan diet. It just means these are things you need to do. So it's very important that we pick something that aligns with our values. What's going to be very important to you? For some people, maybe it'll be, animal rights. And so they do want to go vegan, and that resonates with them. Well, that's perfect, because then you're reducing your risk of cancer and you're helping animals. So that's a wonderful thing that aligns with your values. So pick one thing that really you feel is important to you, that aligns with your values, and you're more likely to continue that path. And pick something very small. Like if I tell, let's say somebody wants to make a recipe and they're all gung-ho, and I'm like, do you have a sheet pan? They're like, no. I said, okay, that's your first step. Just buy the sheet pan. Don't make the recipe yet, right? So that's more likely for you to continue when you have that incremental success.
I love it. I love it. The motivation is there. And I say to anyone that's listening and that is looking for the nutritional value as they go through this journey, my hat goes off to you, and, keep that motivation. There's ways to find nutritional secrets and gems. And speaking of gems and secrets, Tamar, you have a book about nutrition. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you. It came out last year, and it's a labor of love. And it is called Cancer Diet for the Newly Diagnosed, an integrative guide. It's really a guide for all, aspects of the cancer diagnosis and then into survivorship. And there's 75 recipes that I try to make very easy, so you can do it during active treatment or not, or a caregiver can do it. And I worked with a wonderful chef who's also a dietitian. That's a great mix, Harry Gabriel, and we worked together on this book, and I'm very proud of it. And I've heard it's very helpful, so I'm glad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're giving individuals tools that they can utilize along this journey. And that right there is priceless. So thank you for that. Yeah. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to reading that book as well, because I'm always in the kitchen doing something, food prepping, whatnot. Like I said, having that background in fitness, you learn to do that. It's like second nature to me. So to have a different recipes that we can add in and whatnot, yeah, I would love that.
It's true. Cooking is a health behavior. We tend to dismiss it, and the food companies, the manufacturers have convinced us we can't cook anymore. We have to buy everything pre-made, and it's not necessarily true. We do, maybe we didn't learn from our parents to cook, but there's certain dishes you can whip together that are incredibly nutritious. Beans in anything, or a bean-based dip, which is really easy, and put some fresh vegetables to dip in. This is something you could do very quickly, and you don't have to buy a pre-made dish. Now, of course, if you're strapped for time, there are pre-made things you could buy to help you put the dish together. But, I just think they've convinced us we can't cook anymore. And the cooking shows we watch, right? They're incredibly complicated, and it doesn't have to be like that. We can make very simple, even our cultural foods are usually very simple foods that are delicious and comforting and nutritious.
I love it. I love it. I love what you said earlier too. You talked about, not necessarily being so extreme and still being able to enjoy some of those foods that you have over maybe the holidays or something you're craving. And you just may feel, oh my goodness, that's not going to be good for me overall. But, sometimes it's treating yourself, it's not necessarily keeping that lifestyle every day is what you were saying, right? It's just about, hey, answering that craving, but then getting back on board as far as your everyday eating. Is that something that you were kind of talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even call it a treat. It's normal eating, right? We can't live without some of those foods. just move on, move on, have it in a dose that actually feels good to your body. And that takes some practice. I actually teach that skill to people because we've lost that skill. We knew it as children, right? When you were a child, there's no way you could overeat when you were really young. It was like, I'm full, I'm done. But we lose that as adults for many reasons. So it's a skill, it's a practice that we can bring back into our lives. And so we can have those foods. And I do want to point out that we're now no longer in nutritional science focusing on just this food and have just this food. It's the whole pattern of eating that's really important. So that's why you can fit those foods into your lifestyle and enjoy them. And I see people abandon their cultural foods, and that's a great loss. You should keep those in, and not try to change them. In fact, keep them as is because they're food memories. They're very important.
Yeah. Great, great advice. Great advice. So talk to us a little bit here. You now, how long has it been now since you've been cancer free or your last treatments or whatnot?
Yeah, it's about 15 years. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But it's always in the back of your mind. It becomes, at the beginning it's overwhelming and now it's kind of a footnote. It's there. I know it's there. And I'm, careful about what I eat, and I do exercise. That's another critical thing that's really, really important for many reasons, right? For not just cancer, but for mood, for preventing other diseases. And it makes me feel good when I exercise, so I like that. But if we could put that in a pill, oh my gosh, because it can reduce recurrence by almost 50%. So we never see it in those terms. We really have to view exercise as something you want to do that you enjoy, right? You would probably have better tips than me. But I do come up with different ideas for people who think they have to go to the gym. No, you could dance at home with your kids. That's fun, right? So we have to, kind of expand our notion of what exercise really is. And then I forgot where I'm going now. So I went
No,
off track.
no, it's quite all right. You know, Absolutely. Dancing is a form of cardio. If we get our heart rates to a certain level, and that's the joy. Dancing. Who doesn't love dancing? And sometimes when you're not feeling good, right? Sometimes they say fake it till you make it. And being able to be at home and putting on some music that you truly enjoy, and finding yourself, dancing away can be a great form to get those endorphins going. So, 100%. What I wanted to talk about is a lot of times, Tamar, people do not know where to go when it comes to this aspect, right? We're talking about a very specific topic, a diet during, your cancer treatments, or life after cancer. What does diet look like? Is there resources that people can go to? Is there something that you're involved with that you can throw out that's maybe a gem for those who are listening in?
Well, first of all, ask your clinic. Every clinic has dietitians, right? They may be very busy, but ask to see them. A lot of times, if it's in the clinic, it will be covered by your insurance. You have to check. But they're a great resource, especially during chemo, for the exact things I was talking about, taste changes. And then a lot of them now have survivorship groups, and they're very important because I've spoken to a lot of them about nutrition. They always have some segment on nutrition as well. So tap into what your cancer clinic is offering. In LA, we do have some really great ones. And then get a referral. If there isn't one in the clinic, get a referral to a dietitian, or you could go to eatright.org, and they have a list of dietitians in your area. You punch in your zip code and check them out. It's like finding a therapist, see who speaks to you, if they're, the kind of person that you feel comfortable working with. And so that's a couple of ways to do that. And then for me, actually, if you're at high risk or going through breast or ovarian cancer, I work with this organization called Share It, where you can apply for free nutrition coaching with me or another dietitian. I offer a one-on-one, and she offers the group one. And that's happening this year. So you can go to their website and apply, whether you're in LA or not. That's a fantastic resource, and it's funded by Cedars-Sinai in LA. So worth investigating as well. And then there are, I try not to Google everything because a lot of it will be wrong. And yes, I did check ChatGPT, and it's not what you want either. So not yet. So Dr. Google is not your friend. Try to go to a hospital websites. They usually have good websites for nutritional. The NIH has a great cancer.org, cancer.gov website where they have different brochures and things like that. But again, that's going to be very general, not specific to what you are going through. So you do want to work with somebody closely, I think.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Those are some nice gems, and I hope you guys can write that down, and take a look at those websites, because these are the things that are going to help you, right? Sometimes you don't know where to go, but dropping the gems, Tamar, you've definitely given us some guidance on where we can go to find the answers. And one of the things too, as a cancer coach, I understand a lot of times it starts with our minds, right? Because anxiety and fear, what do? The desperation of, oh my God, I need to change things right away happens. And as a cancer coach, I see my clients go through that. And so I came up with a program, and it's called It Starts With Your Mind. And it's about having the right mindset as you go through this cancer journey. And you can find that at yourcancerguide.com. It starts with your mind. How do you get the mindset in order to take this step day to day? And that's what I help you out with. So to be able to have people like Tamar come onto the show and talk to you about dietitian, myself putting up programs that are going to allow you to have a better start on this journey. That's our whole goal. We want to make sure that we're helping you along the way, and that you're not alone in this, that we're in this together. So Tamar, thank you so much for joining us here at All Talk Oncology. It's a privilege to have you. You've given us so much, so many gems. We have your book now. We have websites we can go to. But before we let you go, is there anything else you would like to say to our listeners before you depart?
I think the most important thing is you did not cause your cancer. There was nothing you ate. There was no one food that did this. There's no blame and there's no shame. Let's just move forward, and get the right foods for your needs, whether it's mood or gut health. There are many different ways to approach it, and your approach is going to be very individual. So just move forward. Small changes, better, not perfect. That's really the mantra here.
I love it. You're talking to someone who's now been 15 years cancer-free. She knows what she's talking about. Make sure you take a look at those resources she's given you. Tamar, it's a privilege. Thank you so much for joining us on All Talk Oncology. And as I say to every single listener, every time, you're not alone in this. We're in this together. This is Kenny Perkins, AKA Your Cancer Guy. Until again, I'm out.